Good evening from London. My name is Vikas. We use this opportunity to speak with friends and present to you just these great thoughts that are coming from all parts of the world. And today, I'm really pleased that a friend of mine called Tony Bloome is joining us. Tony runs an NGO called the mEducation Alliance, Mobiles for Education Alliance. But at the heart of it is this question about the use of technology, right? It's held a promise for so many of us for so long. And in education, Tony and I actually have been kicking around for quite some time, where we've been thinking about use cases and to see when is technology going to appear in low and middle income countries and revolutionize the way people are learning, skilling, working. And what he has done in a very expert manner is to create a broad coalition of organizations, mainly from the government sector, so aid agencies and think tanks and academics, that actually come and talk about this and think and deliberate quite a bit as to, well, how do we achieve this often stated goal? And so please welcome Tony Bloome to this conversation. Tony, welcome.
Thanks, Vikas. It's a pleasure to get a chance to speak with you and your many followers.
You're very kind, sir. I don't know about many followers, but certainly it's always a pleasure to speak with friends. Tony, can I ask you a question regarding? What is the mEducation Alliance? How did it come up? What is your background? And just give our viewers and those that are here an understanding of what the genesis of this idea is.
Sure. Thanks, Vikas. Well, the mEducation Alliance, as you noted, is Mobiles for Education Alliance. And I will start by saying that mobiles is a broad definition for anything technology, but obviously there's a lot of ubiquity and in terms of transference across platforms. So to begin with, it's not exclusively mobile phones, it's radio, television, pico projectors, flash drives. What is the technology that you can use to improve learning outcomes? So just by definition. So I started the Mobiles for Education Alliance when I started at USAID about 11 years ago as the Senior Education Technology Specialist. Before that, I had been at Peace Corps as their Technology for Development Specialist for a few years. And then before that, at the World Bank for, again, around 11 years, living in Africa, working in Washington, again, looking at issues related to education technology. So thereabouts, before I started at USAID, a number of years of experience. But what I found is there was no one central convening platform for individuals such as myself, let alone the broader community, to be able to share experiences with each other, identify areas of collaboration, learn from each other's mistakes. And so that's why I started the mEducation Alliance as a convening platform. To date, we have 34 institutions that represent most of the bilateral, multilateral development and donor agencies, that some part of their portfolio focuses on ed tech for lower resource context. And so that's really where the genesis of it began, which was as selfishly a convening platform for my counterparts in other agencies. But then over time, we've had events every year as a convening platform for policymakers and practitioners, and have reached a couple thousand people through our various events and other products.
Why is it important that policymakers understand EdTech, Tony?
I think it's important for all of us to understand EdTech, not exclusively policymakers, because if you're donors that are investing at the policy level, or you're implementing partners, there's a whole ecosystem of players that are involved. I don't think it's surprising that most policymakers recognize the importance of technology and the opportunity of technology. I think it's depending where they invest in those technologies, given potentially limited resource budgets. So my sense is that policymakers clearly understand that you need technology to collect data. You want technology to support teachers in terms of their professional development. To the extent possible, you want to reach learners in and outside of schools. So there's a whole ecosystem, but clearly it's one of the tools that we can use to increase the efficiencies of the education system. Because even printing textbooks involves the use of technology. Transporting your textbooks, tracking your textbooks, even if you're just using it as a form of strengthening your ecosystem, technology is involved. So my sense is that policymakers clearly recognize that there's a variety of opportunities to use technology purely from the case for efficiency. We'll talk in a moment about effectiveness, but at least in terms of efficiency, it's all around us, and it's the infrastructure that we want to build upon to improve education outcomes.
Thanks a lot. And before we go ahead, I just want to answer this question by Ajaz, who has commented on the YouTube channel. What does the M stand for in mEducation, Tony?
Well, it stands for mobiles, as in mobile phones. But as I noted at the beginning, our definition is everything is mobile, and it's all technologies. And in fact, we don't start with particular technologies in mind. We talk about who is the client that we want to serve, what are their needs, and then you look at what the appropriate technology is to reach those beneficiaries, whether they're teachers, administrators, or learners. But the M is basically in mobiles for education.
Right. And before we go any further, I just want to show people something, which is, if you're on Facebook, you should go to streamyard.com/Facebook and actually give permission so that we can see your name when you comment. So we don't get into this situation where Salam from Pakistan, thank you so much, but we can't see your name. Or, hello from Tunisia, we can't see your name. And so you need to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give them the rights. So my friend Sofia Kazuli from Greece says hello. And on Facebook also we have, Rihai from Tunisia as well says hi. And Bushra talks about this is a great innovative topic under discussion. So you're in demand, my friend, Tony. And of course we have on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Manjola saying hello from Albania. And so when you look at this case that you made in terms of why governments are behind this and why they want to amass evidence that what works, what governments or what evidence do you see? I'm curious that actually leads to us showing that EdTech works. Are you aware of any such moves? I'd love to hear that from you.
Yeah, so that's why I was making the distinctions, Vikas, between efficiency and effectiveness. So in terms of the uses of technology across the ecosystem, we know that technology can and is being used to collect data about learners. We know that it's being used for education management information systems. We know that it can and is being used for teacher professional development. And in light of COVID, of the range of technologies that are being used to reach learners, and I think about just a few of the countries, we had some interviews as part of our EdTech Connected e-zine. We're interviewing policymakers, and from the Philippines and Kenya about how they're using mass media in terms of reaching learners. So there's lots of history about the use of mass media for television, radio, let alone when you get to mobile phones. I'd say we know much more about the efficiency case. As I mentioned my example earlier, if you want to track and trace your textbooks, that you could see where they've gone and then certify it at the community level, that's an important area of transparency. So there's a number of projects that we had supported in this regard, including through an initiative I used to support called the All Children Reading Grand Challenge. I think where we know less, but we're starting to accumulate more evidence, is specific improvements of learning outcomes. No doubt the case can be made about the importance of learning digital technologies and the importance of that in terms of productivity and workforce development skills. Now, we know less about specifically apply technology and improve literacy or numeracy. We have some anecdotal, we have some evidence, and so we're building the evidence trail for that. But I'd say even in developed countries, we have a lot we don't know about applied technology, improve learning outcomes. But groups that we're closely affiliated with, such as the FCDO support for the EdTech Hub, is one of the groups that's helping lay the foundation for research in these important areas. And we're thrilled to be working with them in a variety of ways.
And so tell us about the 3 pillars that you have at the mEducation Alliance.
Well, we do communication, convening, and catalyzing to begin with, Vikas. One of which is we're well known for organizing a variety of convening events every year for the last 11 years that bring together policymakers and practitioners. So understandably, with COVID, we had our first big virtual event last year, which worked out really well. It was called Play Every Day, and we had 100 presentations, 30 countries presenting. From around the world, we had participants, and that was on the theme of uses of tech and non-tech for Play Every Day. This coming year, we'll be doing a series of events focused specifically on math under our initiative called Math Power, and we're really excited, and should any of your followers or viewers be interested, we'll be announcing these in our e-news that goes out every 2 weeks. What do we know about tech and non-tech interventions about math, and to increase the joy of math in the communities that we're serving? So that's convening. That gives an example. Communication products, we have a variety of tools that we're using, including just taking a page of experience, Vikas, from this great opportunity as well, is our setting up a Pulse media channel. They'll have interviews with policymakers and practitioners about EdTech, specifically for developing countries. And I already mentioned the EdTech Connected and other publications. And finally, Math Power is an example of one of our catalyzing activities. So that's one. Another is called Youth Digital Champions, which is specifically focused on pairing youth interest or acquisition of digital literacy skills with their engagement in using those skills for what we call community development. How do you get those young people engaged in strengthening the health system or the agricultural system or community development? Or they're already doing it. So we'll be doing a global call for identification of youth digital champions. And that's going to be great, because maybe for your interview, you could interview one of our youth digital champions.
Love that. Yes.
So those are, so the EdTech, the Pulse I had mentioned in terms of our media channel, under a broad umbrella called the EdTech Academy, Youth Digital Champions and Math Power are three of the signature activities we're advancing.
And so when you talk about your mEducation being an alliance, what specific activity are you most, as I think Americanisms go, jazzed by?
Well, the alliance itself, I think it's growing in time. We started with 3 members. Now we have 34 member representative institutions, just as a convening body to share experiences with each other, and for us to use the alliance as a way to broadcast those great works, including, for example, the stuff you're doing with T4. So I'd say as a convening platform, there's a lot of good practices out there, and we want to make sure that people get exposure to it. I'll tell you of a particular activity that gets me the most excited in terms of under our Math Power, and it connects Youth Digital Champions and Math Power. Can you get a bunch of young people excited about being math game ambassadors? That basically they're in the community introducing other young people to the use of tech and non-tech math games. And we want to train thousands of youth basically. So they're going to be like the superstars in their community, right? Because they're working with other kids, but it's all about math games. And can we infuse the joy of math games, both in formal and informal settings? And how might youth math ambassadors help us be that convening platform that help us deliver those good works to people in their community? So that's a particular project that brings together all the things I'm excited by. It's use of technology to reach the youth. Then it's around something tangible about increasing numeracy. And then it's engaging young people who are interested in digital literacy skills to be involved in that activity. And so you could see that sort of combines all these different activities that I've talked about together.
Well, wonderful. And Tony, I owe you a thanks as well for joining the T4 Alliance for Education NGOs. And those that are watching will know that on the 17th of April, we're hosting the Teacher Tech Summit, which is a global free online conference for teachers with regards to the use of tech. And we're asking questions like, how do you design the learning experience for hybrid environments? How do you create community in online classrooms? How do you create good digital content? How do you assess learning in online environments? And how do you promote equity and inclusion in online classrooms? And so when you look at these 5 areas, one of the things that I was really jazzed by is quite simply that we had a Flipgrid contest where teachers submitted 3-minute videos onto Flipgrid, and over the last month we've had about 205 and when I looked at the grid, what really amazed me was, firstly, the amazing role modeling that actually female teachers and women were quite dominant in this Flipgrid, which I thought was amazing. But secondly, also I was looking at contexts like Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, some parts in Africa, which is exactly the kind of areas that you've been focused on. So there's a lot of synergies between our work in that sense. So Tony, in terms of like when you look at how, the T4 community is principally teachers, educators, and schools. Yeah, tell me, how is it that they can engage with the mEducation Alliance more?
Yeah, and first of all, I'm just enjoying seeing where the people are visiting from. I just saw somebody from Jordan. That's terrific. There's lots of exciting projects in Jordan. Yeah, because I would say the member institutions of the Alliance themselves, part of our role is just the amplification of their great works, whether it's T4 or organizations that have country counterparts. We would like to influence that agenda, particularly to bring good practice examples forward, and use that as an example maybe to inform future solicitations. So for example, the great work that you're doing just capturing good practice examples of teacher applying their skills and their enthusiasm and passion. And we can't wait to share those examples with the mEducation Alliance community, with our country counterparts, for example, because that might be something that jogs an idea that they want to include in a future solicitation. So I would say, in one respect, all the content that you could feed us, Vikas, we have a variety of platforms that we want to be able to share. I also, just as a testimony to the importance of teachers, what can you say? I mean, COVID is an additional challenge upon an already challenging environment that these teachers have, and we can't do enough to celebrate their work. And if we could find tools, technology tools, that help them do their work easier, then it seems like it's a responsibility for all of us that want to do something to impact the education system, is to strengthen the lifeblood of those education systems, which are the teachers themselves. Now, we're interested in both in and outside of school settings. So it's also a broader definition of who a teacher is. Strengthen the formal education system, because that's where you reach sort of scale. But also, what are opportunities that you could provide paraprofessional opportunities for other stakeholders in the communities to also play some form of role in helping educate the children in their communities. So we're also interested in what are those other opportunities outside the traditional education system as well.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining me today. And please be assured that everything that we do at T4, is there at your disposal. We have 80 plus country ambassadors from about 43 countries. Many of these actually are watching at the moment. So Nabila from Jordan, as an example, is one, as is Sophia and Irma and friends like that. But I especially want to thank Johina from Tunisia, who actually went onto StreamYard and gave them permission. So thank you so much for doing that. So we now can see your name. And of course, Ranjana has just joined from India, and she's a country ambassador there as well. And so we have a very dynamic community that is at your service, sir. And I look forward to our future engagements. Please do come back later on in the year and tell us more about your work. As a last comment, I want to say that Irma has asked this question, which is digital technology is so already the most important part of reality in learning. Innovation cannot be a thing without collaboration and communication and commitment, all related to digital technology now. Mm-hmm. So on that note, I think we'll call it a day for today. And thank you all for watching. And Tony, once again, please accept my thanks and congratulations for everything you have achieved.
Thanks, Vikas.